Hi, I'm Ron Galen from Longmeadow, Massachusetts, and I play at Longmeadow Country Club. Welcome to Golf Smarter.
Hi, this is Susanna McGee from Sarasota, Florida. I play golf at the Preserve Golf Club at Tara in Bradenton. And this is Golf Smarter number 1020. Welcome.
An average golfer isn't using a yardage book, probably doesn't know how to read the contour lines or the elevations. Our goal is to provide them a prescriptive answer that says, before you hit this tee shot, here's the aim point. Not to say replace yardage books, maybe a different use case. And then what we've heard from a lot of folks is building intuition to play smart is really difficult in golf if you don't play with a lot of really good players. If you're a 15 handicap and you don't play with a lot of great golfers, how do you know you shouldn't short side yourself? How do you know maybe you should take this different line? You just don't. And so people have used ShotSense and have seen, okay, it keeps angling me over here. Why is that? Like, okay, there's water over here. I need to shift it over this way. The pin's over here. Why does it keep saying aim towards the fat part of the green? Now I'm better understanding this. One thing we get really comfortable with is the rangefinder of zapping the pin. It's 162. And you're like, all right, like maybe I'll take a yard off and a yard to the left. We can do better than that now that we have all of this data.
Understanding and optimizing strategy for every shot using the ShotSense app featuring Brent Neville.
This is Golf Smarter, sharing stories, tips, and insights from great golf minds to help you lower your score and raise your golf IQ. Here's your host, Fred Green.
Welcome to the Golf Smarter podcast, Brent.
Thanks, Fred. Happy to be here.
Glad to have you on here. Let's get the mouth working first thing on a Monday morning. We're recording this. So there's a lot of competition out there, right? There's like in what you're doing. And we haven't even talked about what you're doing yet. But like when I started this podcast, there were 2 or 3 golf podcasts. It was easy to stand out and be on top. Here we are 20 years later in the podcast world, and there are a lot of podcasts. A couple of years ago, apps started coming out for your phone so that you have a GPS on your phone. And it was just a GPS. But it's getting crowded in that space too. There's a lot of apps there, and you've come up with something unique. I know that your fingers are crossed that you are unique compared to everybody else, but I think you have a lot of reasons why it is. Let's talk about the ShotSense app.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you. It definitely a crowded marketplace. Maybe I'll take a step back and think about, how we view the golf landscape of like getting better or lowering your scores. We think about it very simply as you can either hit the ball physically better or you can play smarter. Lots of innovation in the ability to physically hit it. New clubs, new swing, AI swing analyzer, launch monitors, simulators, all the golf-specific fitness programs, lots going on there. Right. And then I think for a while, the playing smarter hadn't had as much innovation. There's a lot of golf GPS apps out there that maybe show you the satellite view and you can move a cursor around. Rangefinders really, despite their price going up quite a bit in the last 5 years or so, technology that's I think over 20 years old, and then you have some larger like course management. Let's like teach you how to think about it, or if you were to go to some clinic, they can teach it. We kind of look at that and say, well, now that we have modern computing, now that we have a better understanding of how kind of the analytics look, how can we leverage the supercomputer in your pocket to provide you the optimal strategy for every shot, for every course, tailored to you? And that's really what we think. So you'll hear me say this quite a few times of de-averaging these large data sets that were historically used to provide things. Good example is strokes gained, very, very super helpful, very novel, but based on a very large average data set. That is what Brody had to do 10 years ago when we didn't have all of this modern computing. So that's kind of where we're excited to go forward, just that the capabilities that we have today that just frankly didn't exist 2, 5, 10 years ago.
So you talk about Brody, you're talking about the strokes gained elements of the game.
Yeah. So Brody came out with his book
Mark
and all
Brody.
the research. Yeah, Mark Brody. Sorry.
That's okay.
In about I think it was like 2014. It's about 11 years ago. Super novel research and all of that. But there are limitations to strokes gained. Many of those he wasn't able to solve back then. And now with computing, we can do that. And so a lot of what we do is just kind of trying to figure out, instead of, great example is 17 at Sawgrass from the tee, 130 yards, strokes gained estimate, I think is 2.98. If you put that at 130 yard par 3 at your local course, I'd argue that, strokes gained is going to say those are the exact same statistical, score. I venture to say 17 at Sawgrass is a little bit more difficult, and that's because of the unique layout of the green, obviously the hazards everywhere, and so that's a limitation of strokes gained, is that it can't de-average for your specific shot that's upcoming.
I get it. So what was it that you decided this is where we need to create something that, and you've got to believe I love the playing smarter part. I mean, that's what we've been talking about for 20 years now.
Yeah. So started playing a lot of golf, played about, I think close to 200 rounds over 2.5 years.
Wow.
And all at almost the same place. Went from an 8 to a 1.5. Didn't change my swing, didn't change my clubs. You're obviously playing a lot, you're putting a lot, and you're very familiar. But what it really was is I knew every play on every shot. Very rarely, golf, the magic thing with golf and going to new courses that every, lie is different or every pin position. If you play a course 200 times, you haven't seen everything, but you've seen a lot of it. And so from, my background kind of engineering, there's a couple holes where I didn't know the right play even after all of that. First hole's a great example. OB right and a bunch of trees left. Is it driver but aimed towards the trees? You obviously don't want to hit an OB. But how far into the trees do I want to aim? Or do I hit a 3-wood? Obviously with 3-wood, you're going to lose some distance and have a longer approach. How does that all work? And you can start trying to do strokes gained, but it's a little tricky. And so that kind of started the quest to say, is there a way to mathematically model this out and go for, our goal of saying, can we provide the optimal strategy for every player on every course for every shot? And so that's where ShotSense Golf was born.
How did you figure that out?
Lots of math and problem solving. So my background is engineering and a lot of what I'll call like frontier technology, satellites, autonomous vehicles, geospatial analysis, augmented reality. And so at the end of the day, those are all so new that you may think you're going to solve something, but you end up having to solve quite a few different problems along the way before you can actually get to it. And that's really what we faced here is, okay, you want to do this one thing and you're like, oh man, these trees end up impacting strategy quite a bit. Or, how do I get the data source for every hole to be accurate? Okay, that's pretty tough. But, if we give the users the ability to draw out of bounds or to adjust the trees, that can help. And so it was all those, we'll say like micro problem solvings that laddered up to help us do that. And so ultimately our patent pending kind of core, differentiator is what we call our ShotSense decision engine. And that's what helps tell the users the optimal strategy. And so there's 4 main inputs to that one. The first is your club characteristics. That's how far you carry it, the total, if there's rollout, your dispersion, length, width, rotation, and then ultimately shot shape, big fade or small draw, something like that. Or, maybe if you hit a straight ball, you're one of the lucky few. So that's everything about your shot.
Let me stop you there before you get to number 2. There's 4 of them, right?
Yep.
So how does it know your club characteristics?
Yep. Yeah. So when you start or when you join the app or download it, the first thing you'll be taken through is our interactive onboarding. And the first portion of that is where we figure out what's in your bag. So we'll ask you, I think it's about 7 to 10 questions. And we've trained a machine learning model to predict your club distances, your dispersion, and then shot shape. We've trained that on tens of thousands of shots. And dispersion is this wildly fascinating topic that I think a lot of people may not understand all of the nuances there. And so what we found in early research is one of the quickest ways people get their dispersion is they do the TrackMan Combine. Super fun, super helpful, but it's 6 shots at one location with one club. Statistically speaking, if you want to get closer to like a 90th percentile confidence, you have to hit 140 shots. No one's going to the simulator and hitting 147 irons. And so what you find is there's somewhere in between of we hit 6 shots from TrackMan Combine and we get this estimate on our dispersion. That's clearly not good enough. And then 140, no one's going to do that. And so this is a perfect use case of machine learning is to say, okay, how far do you estimate you hit your driver and 7 iron? What's your handicap? Where do you typically miss? And using all the trained data of people that have a similar characteristic of you, here's what we projected. So that's where we start. However, if you actually know your data, if you have a launch monitor, or if you're a college golfer or pro, you obviously are going to know that data. So you can manually edit all of that. And that really gets kind of what is the truth about your clubs if you do know that.
So when I started using the app myself, I went through some of the onboarding. I didn't complete it, obviously. I need to do more. I kind of got stuck because I carry a 5 hybrid, and it didn't allow me to put that in there. You have 5 iron and 4 hybrid. I'm like, now what do I do? I'm stuck.
Yeah. So we have different labels. I think we have woods, hybrids, irons, and wedges.
Yeah.
So you can put a 4 hybrid, and then you can change the name of it to a 5 hybrid. And then,
but I carry both.
So then you can select like 2 hybrid and 3 hybrid and 4 hybrid. And then or you're saying, do you carry like a 2, 3, 4, and 5 hybrid?
No, I carry a 4 and 5 hybrid, a 3 and 5 wood.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I think you can do driver 3 wood, 5 wood. And then I'd recommend you do like a 3 hybrid and a 4 hybrid. And then you can change the names of those to reflect what you actually have. So it's a good point of feedback. Easy to add additional names there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a great piece of feedback.
Oh, you're welcome. Good. All right. So we got club character. You said there were four elements.
Yep.
And the first one was club characteristics, which was fascinating in itself. Where are we going next?
Yep. Yeah. So now we know, to simplify the clubs, we know how you hit the ball uniquely to you. The next one, obviously with golf and the piece that's really, I think when you think about de-averaging stuff is missed is every hole is unique. And so you have to have some understanding. We'll call it the geospatial analysis. Where's the tee? Where's the fairway? Where are the sand traps? But then more so like, what's the shape of the green? What's the shape of the fairway? Where are the trees? Where are the trees in comparison to the tee shot? And so that's really the second bucket is you need to know everything about the layout of the hole. And then we also give the users, we kind of give everyone a head start with some data to say, here's where we think the trees are, here's the fairway. But if the trees have changed or there's things like out of bounds, we give the user the ability to draw their own course representations. And so you can provide that very accurate representation of the hole you're about to go play.
So all this stuff really is, it's not generic information. It's very specific information for the person who's looking for details.
Yeah. So there's the starting point of what we have. So there's 2 different flows. One is you are, a high handicapper, not super tech advanced. And so you'll type in the things during the onboarding. It'll give you the clubs. You probably don't know your club distances or your dispersion. And then you'll start the round, and everything that we have already labeled where the trees are, where the fairways are a really good start. And so you just have to hit the ShotSense button, which we'll get into. And there you go. And you have the answer. However, we can ramp that up to say you can, as we talked about, tailor your clubs as much as you want. And then for a specific course, you could detail it to to whatever nth degree if you really want to spend the time, or if you're a very competitive golfer there. So that there is, maybe an easy mode, and then, is as advanced as you'd like.
Are you trying to replace like the yardage books that people carry and take all those notes?
Yeah, I mean, replace. I think when you're
complement is the word complement. Then
when you're in a tournament setting, I think the yardage books are really great. Phones and electronic devices during a tournament are a tough sell, just because there's a lot going on there. So I think yardage books serve that purpose of saying, here's this competitive round. I think when we think about the average golfer, an average golfer isn't using a yardage book, probably doesn't know how to read the contour lines or the elevations. Our goal is to provide them a prescriptive answer that says, before you hit this tee shot, here's the aim point. As you hit this approach into the green, don't aim at the pin, aim over here. And all of that is your statistically optimal answer. And so that's really what we're trying to do. So I think, not to say replace yardage books, maybe a different use case. And then what we've heard from a lot of folks is building intuition to play smart is really difficult in golf if you don't play with a lot of really good players. If you're a 15 handicap and you don't play with a lot of great golfers, how do you know you shouldn't short side yourself? How do you know maybe you should take this different line? You just don't. And so people have used ShotSense and have seen, okay, it keeps angling me over here. Why is that? Like, okay, there's water over here. Okay, I need to shift it over this way. Okay, the pin's over here. Why does it keep saying aim towards the fat part of the green? Like, okay, now I'm better understanding this. And, one thing we get really comfortable with is the rangefinder of zapping the pin. It's 162. And you're like, all right, like maybe I'll take a yard off and a yard to the left. Like we can do better than that now that we have all of this data.
So are you saying that the ShotSense app is to replace the fact that you may not be playing with much better players, but you're playing with guys who you've been playing with for a while and you're all around the same handicap? And this is like having a pro with you?
Yeah, I mean, we call it the world's most advanced or intelligent digital caddy. And we think because golf is incredibly complex, almost infinitely complex, we'll call it. And so I think what we're going for is we have all this data flowing in, and given all of these inputs, here's the recommendation and the output, and that gives you your optimal strategy. That's something that without a true caddy next to you, really difficult for you to build that intuition. Or, I'm just aiming for the fairway. Well, no, based on everything you've given us, based on the course, we can say you're actually going to aim 1 yard left into the rough, because that gives you the statistically optimal shot and way to finish the hole. And so that's really what we're saying. So yeah, in a sense, anyone who average golfer, even the more advanced players, it's giving you that caddy, whether you implicitly trust it because you don't know a right answer, or what we've heard from a lot of elite players is it makes me think through it more. I think all of those are good conversations to have and things that we've heard from users.
Fascinating. All right. So the second part was the geospatial analysis.
Yep.
And then third on the list?
Yep. Third one, a little bit related to that, is elevation. Obviously, elevation is very important on a golf course. But when you're running a true optimization, we like to have people think about Google Maps. And essentially what we've done is created Google Maps for golf. Google Maps is routing you from point A to point B. They have these complex algorithms. Dijkstra is one of them. And they need to know every bit of information, how many lanes, what's the speed limit for every single road, to quantify it's 17 minutes from you to go to this point to that one. It's 18 if you were to take a left here. And so what we've done is we quantify all of these different routes. We say, is it driver 7-iron or is it driver 8-iron sand wedge? And in doing so, elevation, we need at every single point on the golf course. We can't just do the tee and the pin. We have to know what the topography looks like. And so that's that last one. So that's kind of why it's carved into its own third bucket, is to say it's really important to know all the different elevation on every hole.
And is that information provided by users, or is that the one you're getting from like Google Maps? And
it's a proprietary data set that we have. So we have
for 40,000 courses. How do you get all that information?
So we only have it for U.S. courses right now, but we're working on the other countries.
How? I mean, how do you do it?
Yeah, well,
I know it's proprietary, and I'm digging in because I'm going to steal it. No, I'm like, I don't get it.
I think with my background, with geospatial analysis, like there's a lot of tools and ways to do that. Extracting it can be pretty tricky, but this is where, as I was talking about earlier, all these micro challenges. We had a version that didn't have elevation, and every shot I had gave us the wrong answer. And I was like, well, this is totally worthless, right? Like who's going to use it? If you really are going to tell somebody, here's the optimal answer, and then you caveat it with, but then manually factor in all of the elevation, well, that's not really helpful. Like, here's the Google Maps thing. We just don't know exactly when you'll get there, but like plus or minus 15 minutes. And so that's what was like, okay, like we have to solve this at scale. And so that was, a fun endeavor.
All right, before we get to the fourth element that helps you create ShotSense app, let me ask you this. Is this for every golfer?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I think of this, again, like Google Maps, where, Google Maps helps me and you route from A to B, but Google Maps also powers DoorDash. It also powers Comcast technicians going from point A to point B. Because we've focused on the math layer, it can serve the higher handicaps. That's really where we think we'll see a lot of traction of folks that they don't really know how to play smarter out there, and they're not going to hire a caddy or whatnot. So this will be something with the press of one button, you get the answer. Aim over here. That's great. So we're really excited to, for that market. But because we've spent so much time and energy having these precise, complex mathematical models, it can serve the advanced golfers as well. Good example is determining Q School Regional. Had somebody 280 carry hit a cut. And so with the round planner feature, because we are able to quantify all these routes for hole one, given these dimensions and your club characteristics, your expected score is 4.18. And so they can go through and say, okay, like if I hit a 280 in a cut, is this course best? Or is it this other regional? And maybe the sand traps are a little shorter or a little longer. And so maybe a long way to say, we think we can serve everyone in the market, but do think that the average golfers will see the most score or the most strokes shaved off from their handicap.
Well, as we've been advocating for years about becoming a better, smarter golfer, in getting that information to do that strategic information. And I think that's where the problem is for so many golfers. I know for myself, if I look over a scorecard from my last round and I see holes that have numbers that I'm not comfortable seeing on my scorecard, it's mainly because I make bad decisions.
Yep. Yeah. And I think there's some fascinating things with once you get real comfortable with the math model and understanding expected scores. You look on a scorecard and the handicap of all the par threes are, maybe say the four highest. Well, if you look at it, that's more of I'm not an expert on, course rating and handicapping and things like that. But I think there's something there about, why they're ranked so high. But if you have a par three that's 180 yards, your expected score on that is going to be pretty high compared to a par four that is, let's say, 370 yards. Obviously depending what you how far you drive in, things like that. But
or a par three that's 120 yards.
Yeah, exactly. Like 180 yard par three is a difficult hole. But if it's 17 handicap, you look at yourself and you're like, this is tough, or no one gets strokes on that one. That's a tricky shot. And so you have to kind of look at it from all of this math perspective to say that's taking the unique layout of the green, that's taking your dispersion at whatever club you hit 180, or, maybe it's 170 or 190, and figuring out kind of how all of that works, running the math to say, yeah, we think you're probably closer to, I'm a 5 handicap now. For me, it's probably closer to a 3.6 or something like that on that hole. And it gives you some expectation that you're right, that is a little bit of a tricky hole. Whereas maybe I'll make up the shots when it's 370 and maybe I'll have, 100 yards into the flag or something like that. And so that's where you're able to see some of the difference in that.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you see somebody get upset with themselves because they miss a 10-foot putt, which we all do. But then you remind them that, on the PGA Tour, they're at 50% from 10 feet. So there's no reason to get upset with yourself. So if you're saying, this is a par 3, I'm expecting to par this hole, yet the average score in this hole is higher than, especially if it's 180 yards for most of us, if it's higher like that, it's like, oh, okay, I don't have to beat myself up if I get a bogey on this hole when the average score is really on a par 3, 4.4 or something like that. So it kind of helps you get comfortable and relax a bit more about playing that hole.
Yep. Absolutely. And it's all goes back to kind of the expectations piece of, if the expected value is going to be 3.6 and you do get a par, you've essentially gained 0.6 strokes for yourself. And therefore, if you have, it's a par 4 and your expected value is 4.2 and you have a bogey, okay, you lost some there. But all in all, it's just, better understanding your expectation. And really the only thing you can do is what we really emphasize to folks is we'll handle all the complex math. We'll tell you where to aim, and then you get to go up there and execute. There's obviously the huge piece of this one of, physically hitting the ball is typically pretty important. And so if we can help solve, all the strategy piece, then you get to go focus on go hit that shot. Have a lot of confidence and conviction that you're going to aim to the left side of the green and hit this shot. And then hopefully, over time, you're able to build, the ability to strike the ball a little bit better.
There's so many things that other apps that you're competing with that offer that you may not, and you're clearly offering a lot more than a lot of other apps. And that's becoming really obvious here. Is there a social element to it as well that you can play against or keep track of what your friends are doing, your playing partners?
No, we haven't focused on that one. That seems to be maybe in the last year. There's quite a few. I see a lot of people, deeming themselves as the Strava of golf, or trying to go down that route. So we've been given the complexities of the decision engine. That's where all the time and energy has gone. And so I would say our real focus is from a, optimal strategy. Let's get you the right answer. There's a lot more we can do there. And so kind of social kind of hasn't bubbled up to the top for us.
That's fine. I was just curious about that. Let's go ahead to the fourth element.
Yeah. The fourth element is what we'll call golf intelligence. And so we'll start with trees. You can't hit through trees. Fun fact. And
wait, what?
Yeah, I don't know if you knew this. And so, a great example is, was it 14 at TPC? That tree has impact. How do you factor that in or whatnot? Or, lots of different holes. And so, the first one there is trees have impact. How do we figure that out from a strategy perspective? The next one is that, short siding yourself, not a good thing to do, up to a half stroke penalty based on your angle and severity. And then lastly, golf isn't just what's my next optimal shot. It really gets to that route, like we were talking with Google. If you're going to take a highway, but then it's 1 mile per hour for the last 10 minutes, well, there's probably some side street that you can just go 35 the whole time. And so for golf, that means, let's say there's a tree that's blocking the right side of the green, you should be coming in from the left. And so when we think about your tee shot, we have to be thinking about the second shot to figure out where to hit your first shot. And so that's what we'll call multi-shot optimization. And that's, the last piece of golf intelligence. So those are, it's kind of all bucketed together, but it's very golf specific stuff that we factor in. And so all of that then is combined in the ShotSense decision engine. And then the output of that is your optimal strategy for every shot, every hole on any course.
The way you're describing this, Mr. Engineer, and the way I'm absorbing it, it sounds like this app is making golf, and I think this is awesome, but it's turning it into a chess match.
I think there's a few things. So at the end of the day, any of these, we'll call them play smarter tools, from the rangefinders to the GPS apps, are all just that, tools. We're never, some folks are getting better at like wind for a specific hole, or, the undulation, if your ball hits on the downslope, where it's going to go. So golf is always going to have these very kind of unique characteristics, and also where there's kind of the human element and decision making. For example, we don't factor in wind because there's no good source of wind for every hole. I think there's a couple companies starting to do that. They're not at every course, but we don't want to bake that into an optimization if we don't know if it's correct. And so I think you're right in that it's a chess match, in that you should, there is a mathematical right answer. It is very unique for every player and every situation. Chess, maybe not so much, because it's a set board. Now there's obviously, probably trillions of combinations on that board of what it could be, but right. there are a finite number, where golf is not finite. And so, chess match in that there's a mathematical best approach to every shot you take. But do we think everyone's going to know that all the time? No. And so what we're out thinking is that let's help you build your intuition slowly. If you're a high handicap golfer, any of this is good knowledge to start. If you start to be a single digit or an elite player, okay, like when you're in a tournament, you're not using these tools. So then it's really, how do you use all of those tools to the best of your ability out there? And so I think yes to the chess piece. And then where you really get to prove it is when it's in tournament play. What have you learned from the playing smarter perspective? And then go execute it. Our goal is really, if you had, say, like a strokes gained strategy metric, we think every golfer should be able to have a perfect strokes gained strategy, because it's really just, what should I do? Not your physical ability and things like that. And so that's where, we're excited that as people build that intuition, I think people will have more fun. And, I think by having more fun, you either shoot lower and that's why you have more, more fun, or you have more fun and then shoot lower. Not sure which one goes first. But that's the hope here.
That's really good. I am not a person, I'm a total tech geek. I love this stuff. And when I talk about, apps, electronics, and rangefinders, and all the different ways of checking your distances, whatnot. But I'm not, I don't think of pulling out my phone all the time. I wear a watch, and found that any of the apps that connect to my watch kill the battery on my watch. So by the time I get to the 12th hole, it's like, your battery is at 2%. It's like on my watch. It's an Apple Watch. And then I have a ShotScope watch that I use just for front, middle, back type of thing, scoring. This does not connect to a watch app at all. It's just standalone on a phone.
Yep, just the phone. We get asked about the watch a lot, so it's definitely on the product roadmap. And so something we're hoping maybe early summer we'll have that out. But yeah, it's a very fair point about golf cell phone usage on a golf course. Yeah. You have some people that just they're there to take a break. They don't want to be tempted by the emails and the text messages. And then there
are courses that don't allow it.
Yep, absolutely. And so there's that's a group that's going to be tough to crack. And so the group that uses it on course, what we've specifically made product decisions around is how to make this intuitive and easy to use on every hole with the least amount of interaction. And so what that is instead of, some apps you move the cursor around and you're having to engage with your phone for a substantial amount of time. Our approach is we assume you're going to be on the tee. If you're not, you can move it. But with the tap of one button, here's the aim point. Put your phone away, go execute. Phone's in your pocket, walk up to your next one, take your phone out. It's going to know where you are. Press the button, the ShotSense button gives you the optimal aim point, left center of the green. It'll give you your plays like distance, club, execute, and then go to the end of the hole. If you want to type in your score at the end, great. If you want to use a shot tracking at the end, also great. But that was only 2 button presses to get the aim point, and therefore you go. And so we think that the value of what we've done is it's all about prescriptive action. And so right now, all the other apps, they don't really get that. Here it is. It's the hole, move the cursor around. What do I want to do? Okay, sure. That could be helpful for some folks. Say the sand trap's over here, but with one button press, here's some value. This is the statistically best aim point. Go do it. Phone in pocket, go do that. And so that's the flow on course. The other piece, and we see this a lot with some of the elite players, is the round planner. Do all of this beforehand. But so we have something that's not on the course, but before you go to a course, figure out for every hole, kind of do a dry run. What's your aim line on every tee shot? You may know where the pins are, especially if it's a tough tournament. Let's call it like Sunday pins. You're going to know where those are, map it out, or do some scenarios. And therefore, before you go there, you've done this dry round with all of the unique characteristics of your shots and the unique hole layout, and figure out what that looks like. And so we also have a bunch of average golfers going to resort courses or nice country clubs that they love doing this because they don't want to go to a country club they've never seen before. And so this one gives them a little bit of ease walking up to that first tee. And so that's, our hope is that, there's going to be on-course users, there's going to be off-course users. And so, but there are folks that, don't want to use phones or whatnot. So, totally get that. And that's a market that we're thinking about in the future.
Wow. All right. Let's do this here. Let's wrap this with this. Walk me through. We're about to play number 6 at Mythical Golf Course.
Yep.
Okay. And number 6 is a dog leg par 4.
Yep.
Walk me through tee to putting in the hole, how you're going to use the app for every shot on this par 4. So let's say you're going to par the hole. Let's hope, but walk me through using ShotSense app, how to play that hole with it.
Yeah. So we'll say dog leg left, and you hit a fade. And so, we already have all that information in there. So when you go to the next, so you're coming off hole number 5, you'll click next hole. And so we'll place the starting point at the tees you selected. So we'll say you're playing the blue tees. And so, let's say you're in the cart. So you can first look to see, is the layout of the hole, and we call them polygons. You'll see there's these colored polygons. Are the trees represented accurately? Is the fairway in the right spot and in the green? Do we have to draw out of bounds? And so we'll assume that you've done this before in Round Planner, and everything is mapped out correctly. And so you'll be in your cart and you'll press the ShotSense button. Takes between 1 to 3 seconds, and then it will give you where your dispersion oval is, and then a blinking red dot that says your optimal aim point. And we talked about it's a dog leg left and you hit a fade. Well, this isn't a great hole for us. And so it's going to try and figure out what's the best spot given, and let's assume there's trees, for the dog leg, and it's not just that you can cut through. If there's trees on the left, we obviously can't go through those trees. So we're going to try and find that optimal spot that given your fade where there's some comfortable margin, then we're going to put the dispersion oval there, trying to figure it out. And it may say 3 wood, 1 or 235, and give you the blinking dot, which is going to say, right center of the fairway, which is your aim point. You're then going to go grab your 3 wood. You'll put your phone in your pocket or in the cart, wherever you want to do that. You'll go hit the shot. Hopefully you hit it close to where you're going. You'll get up to the next one. You'll then, if you have a pin sheet, you can move it because of that. Or if you know where the pin is, you can move it. You take your phone out, move the pin to that location. Then you press the ShotSense button again, and it's going to say, bam, you're 143. It's going to be a 9-iron, and your specific aim point with the pin on the right and given its shape is going to be maybe center of the green or left center of the green. And then you're going to put your phone in your pocket. You're going to execute that shot. Putting, we don't do anything. And so after the hole is when you do scorecards. We track your GPS breadcrumbs is what we call them, to show you where you went or walked. And then if you want to do shot tracking afterwards, you can place the pins, and we aid you because we know where you pressed the ShotSense button. We can tell you, like, here's where you were, just confirm this. And so that's kind of the flow of a hole. At the tee, press the ShotSense button, get the optimal strategy, execute, go to your next shot, press the ShotSense button, execute, and then finish the hole and walk away with our par.
And if when you review the round afterwards, there's all this data. Can you walk through every hole and say, no, I didn't hit that club there. I hit it from over here with this. Can you edit and make changes to it?
So after each hole, you can place the pins to say, this is where I was.
Can you do it post round?
Post round.
Do it post shot.
Post round, you could do a workaround to do a post round, but maybe as you're thinking about it, not like a full feature to say the round is done. Here's my scorecard. Let's do it afterwards. What you could do is fill out all of your scores for each hole, and then at the very end, place it. But not exactly kind of how you're thinking about it.
Yeah, because sometimes I just forget to pull out my phone, right? I'm just not accustomed to it, to the point where, I walk the golf course, and I now use an electric caddy to carry my bag, right? And the last couple rounds, I get into a conversation with one of my playing partners, and all of a sudden it's like, where's my cart? Yeah. I found it 3 inches deep in the mud the other day. It's like all the way on the other side of the green. It's like, oh my God, it took us a while to find it. It was terrible. But my point is I don't always remember to enter, and I would like to be able to, like when I'm sitting at home after the round, go, I want to make these adjustments here, and then look at all my statistics.
Yeah.
It's not available at this point.
Not available, but good feedback point. Not super difficult to do.
Oh, great. Available for iOS and Android?
Just for iOS. Yep.
Just for iOS at this point. Free?
Yep, it's free.
Any in-app charges?
Nope, no in-app charges. We have some big things in the works now, and that's kind of where the monetization strategy comes from. That's where
how'd you know that was my next question? If you're giving it away for free and there's no in-app charges, what's your revenue stream on this? How are you going to sustain this one? Because it's a great idea.
Yep. Yeah. So right now, totally free. What we're building next, we're pretty excited about. And that's where kind of the monetization piece comes from. And we, for an in-app GPS, like what we have right now, we think, the average golfer is playing 3 times a month. To charge $7-8 for a plays like distance, and here's the wind direction. We just don't think that's super helpful. Yeah. We think there's different ways and more sustainable ways to deliver value to them. And therefore, we'll be able to, get some return from that perspective. So yeah, free, version 1 free. And then as we, build everything else coming up, that's where we'll focus on the monetization.
And people can learn more online at?
Yep. Yeah. At shotsensegolf.com or Instagram. I think our handle is shotsensegolf as well.
Excellent. Well, I'm fascinated. I appreciate you reaching out and sharing this with me. The strokes gain strategy. I love that concept. I mean, it's like, get this in your head that, there's ways to play golf smarter. Oh my God, Did I really just say that? No, it's supposed to get you to say that. So anyway, Brent, thank you so much for sharing this with us, and good luck with this one.
Yep. Thanks so much, Fred.